Back to the table. Last month when I was here, we talked a little bit about the police intervention shooting involving police and Mr. Hebert. At that time, I told you there was a number of different investigations that are going to occur, and at that time, I had limited information. Tonight, I brought with me the people that do have a little bit more information about this. Like I said, there's a number of investigations that are going to occur, one of which occurs within the police department, within our homicide unit. Captain Tom John heads up the homicide unit, our criminalistic section. Lieutenant Colonel Vince DeMasi is in charge of the investigations bureau. So they look at it from a criminal aspect. There's also an investigation that takes place with our internal investigation section. The prosecutor ultimately takes a look at this. There'll be a shooting review board that takes a look at it. And finally, Mr. Ken Glenn is in charge of our citizen complaint authority. And every outside body takes a look at what transpired and then make some determinations as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give them a chance to talk to you tonight, and you'll certainly be able to give you some more information and field whatever questions you have. So up to the plate first night will be Lieutenant Colonel Vince DeMasi.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Vince DeMasi. I'm an assistant chief in charge of investigations, and I apologize in advance for my very poor artwork, but I think it will help tell this story a little better. I'm going to cover up your personal statement in just a second. That works great. Can you hear me okay? I don't need this microphone. First off, let me begin by expressing my deepest sympathy to family and friends of Mr. Hebert. I want you to know the Cincinnati Police Department values human life. Our men and women put their lives on the line every day, and any time a death occurs, we consider this a very serious incident, and it's reviewed by a number of different entities. One of the things that Captain Bailey, David, and I'm sorry, I'm not a very formal person, so if I refer to people by their first name and that offense, some of my staff are used to it, but you all, I don't mean any offense, it's just the way I do things. It's important that you understand how this investigation proceeds and what we're doing and how we're trying to pull this thing together. The very first thing that we do anytime a police officer in the Cincinnati Police Department is involved in what we consider critical use of force, where a person is either injured or a death occurs, is we conduct it as we would a criminal investigation. In Hamilton County, the Hamilton County coroner is responsible for all death investigations, regardless of where they occur or by whom. So the coroner's office actually has enlisted us to assist in conducting this type of investigation. Part of that is because, unfortunately, the Cincinnati Police Department has become very good at conducting death investigations. We're also the largest agency in Hamilton County, and we generally have the most resources available so that we can conduct the investigations with the coroner's specifications. So tonight, the Northside community has been very patient. What's holding us up a little bit here, in my ability to really give you a complete, thorough accounting of what's occurred here, is I don't have the coroner's report yet. The coroner's report, the information that we've got from the coroner has been preliminary. In other words, it's been totally by word of mouth. So the relationship that exists with my office, Captain Tom John, who's in charge of our criminal investigation section, in the Hamilton County Coroner, there's constant communications going back and forth about how things are developing. If the coroner wants something specific done as it relates to the investigation, those instructions are given to us. We carry those out, obviously. In addition to the coroner's office, the Hamilton County prosecutor looks at this case as we're progressing through as well. The prosecutor actually had a member of his staff, Mr. Dieters had a member of his staff actually sit in with us as we were conducting the investigations, as we were doing the interviews that night. Also had a member of the prosecutor's staff at the scene in real time with us, with members of our staff, and examined the scene, took numerous notes, and walked around and became very comfortable with what he saw and observed and how the line of questioning would be developed as we progressed through and began interviewing our police officers. So you have to keep that in mind, that this is a slow process, but the police department feels very strongly that at very least, we need to conduct a very thorough investigation. We need to understand exactly what's occurred, and we need to be able to break that down into very small pieces, if you will. And as this progresses over time, and we eventually get into, we leave the criminal arena and get into the administrative arena, when we're working in from an administrative perspective, we're looking at tactics. And what we're trying to do is figure out if there's a way that in the future, if we're faced with the same type of situation that we were faced here, in this particular situation, if there's a way to do it better so that we don't have to use deadly force, or we can get a different outcome from this particular type of an incident. So the tactical piece will come at the very, very end. It comes at the end because we have to make sure, and it's a very slow process, but we have to make sure that there are no criminal violations. If there's any possibility that a police officer or another person will be charged in this, we have to make sure that we follow due process, that we don't contaminate witnesses, that we don't put out erroneous information or information that could in any way, shape, or form hamper the a criminal case from proceeding. We know officially that there will be no criminal case or no criminal charges when we get a letter from the prosecutor saying we have reviewed the case, which includes the coroner's report, and there are no criminal charges that will be filed in this particular case. Once we receive that letter, which will be somewhere down the road, and I understand your frustration. I hope you understand mine as well, because I know it's probably going to be longer than that, because I do not control the coroner. I don't mean to sound like a cop-out. I don't control the coroner's office. I don't control the prosecutor's office. They're independent. And in reality, we want them to be independent because we want to get as many hard looks at this as possible, so that at the end, we come out with a very strong finding of what happened.
Janky already exonerated.
Okay, I'll get to that in just a second. But let me go through this. That's where we're at this point. We don't have a coroner's report. The police investigation, to your question, we did an extensive amount of preliminary work. Our work is done unless the coroner's office would come back with something that we haven't seen. The probability of that occurring is not very good. I think that we've got a pretty good idea of what happened. I think we've got the witnesses. We've got all the parties involved. We've put together a lot of that information. I don't anticipate a whole lot of changes from this point, but until we get the coroner's report back, that possibility exists. And so before I launch into my explanation here, I have to tell you that once we get the coroner's report back, there's always a possibility, although not very probable, there's a possibility the coroner could ask us to do something different or find something that we haven't seen, which could change some of what I'm saying tonight. So I just want to make sure that we're clear on that part of it.